Hello everyone, I'm Stealth Chicken, and today we're going to talk about the Bloodpoint grind, and more specifically, the Survivor Bloodpoint gain. Now, ever since I started playing Dead by Daylight, survivors have always been inferior to killers in terms of their Bloodpoint gain. Now, you could say the main reason for this is, well, survivors aren't guaranteed to last the whole trial. Killers are always going to be there from start to finish, whether they win or lose. But even in games where survivors last the whole trial and they do a little bit of everything, they might do a few gens, they make a couple of saves, evade a few chases, often you still end up with the game with less than 20,000 blood points. Whereas killers usually range anywhere from about 15,000 all the way up to the perfect 32k. So we're going to highlight a few changes in each category just to give survivors that little boost they need in order to help them with the Bloodpoint grind. And first up, the objective category. Now on the left you can see the current ways in which survivors can gain blood points in the objective category, and then on the right you can see my proposed changes. The number that sticks out to me is the 1250 blood points that you get when soloing a generator. And if you add in the skill checks that you get, you're probably going to end up with about 1500 points for soloing a generator. Now, considering the maximum amount of blood points you can get in each category is 8,000, you can already see where the problem lies. If every survivor soloed a gen, there would only be one gen left to do and 2 doors, but every survivor would only be at 1500 blood points. Of course, this very rarely happens. Usually there's a survivor who's getting chased by the killer, or you're doing generator with a friend, but you can see how survivors seem to get punished for doing gens by themselves in terms of blood points. How about a small shift in the numbers? By increasing the base value of a generator from 1250 to 2000, but at the same time maybe slightly reducing the co-op bonus that you get when doing a generator with a friend. This will allow survivors to not feel too heavily punished for soloing a gen, but at the same time not be able to max out to 8k points off 2 gens when doing it with friends. I feel like this change would really benefit the solo players over the survivor friends and would do a small job in narrowing the gap between both of them. Now next up is the Altruism category. In similar fashion to the objective category, these changes would be more tailored to a simple Bloodpoint buff. The main of which would be the Safe Hook Rescue. A few patches back, Behaviour decided to align their Altruism category in blood points more towards the Benevolence category in the emblem system, and I thought this was a great idea, and they did this by introducing the Safe Hook Rescue bonus. And I feel like now would be a great time to highlight this fact even more, by increasing the bonus you get from the Safe Hook from 500 to 1000, meaning that the total blood points that you would get from safely saving a survivor off the hook would be 2000, the exact same as the proposed generator change. This would mean that rescuers have to be even more cautious when saving a survivor off the hook, and doing everything they can to protect them after they do so. Let's make things more interesting. Let's move on to the survival category, in which we've got a few new mechanics being introduced to this category in order to gain blood points. It's currently near enough impossible to hit 8,000 blood points in the survival category without turning the game into a farm fest. And that feels kind of unfair. So just like how Behaviour aligned the Altruism category more towards the emblem system, let's do the same thing with the survival category. Now I want a disclaimer here, these numbers are very rough, so if you think this is too much or too little, these are just rough numbers, let's take the idea into account here. What about for every 2 minutes that you survive in the trial against the killer, you gain roughly 400 blood points, and this would cap at 2000, also known as 10 minutes. This would be very similar to the emblem system, in which you would gain the silver emblem after surviving for 9 minutes. But even this would only leave the survivor at 7,000 blood points, meaning that there is still 1,000 left to grab. Now you could gain a few through the struggle as long as you got saved before you died, but how about, just like the emblem system, we introduce a new mechanic for that if you do not get hooked the whole game, you get a nice 1,000 blood point bonus. Meaning if you wanted the perfect survival game, you would live the game for more than 10 minutes without getting hooked. The final change that I would make in this category would be to remove the points that you get from self-caring. Now you'd still get the skill checks, but I believe they're actually in the Altruism category, and I do not feel that you need the blood point bonus from the self-care. Considering these new changes, it doesn't feel necessary at all. Moving on to the final category, and probably the most interesting, and that's boldness. An issue that we have with the boldness category is that the primary way of obtaining it is to be in chase with a killer, and only one person can be at chase in any one time. there doesn't feel like to be enough meaningful ways to gain boldness outside of the chase. The only consistent ways of getting boldness outside of a chase would either be to sabotage hooks or maybe traps if it's a trapper, or to cleanse totems, whether they be hex or non. So let's add a third category, and let's call it killer evasion. The aim of this category would be to reward survivors for successfully hiding or evading from a killer without the killer being able to find them, so no chase being initiated. So imagine we're in the early parts of a game and you hop on a generator that you see, but you hear the killer coming over, so you decide to hide. You're probably urban evading around a rock or a tree, or you might just simply find a good spot to hide. The killer looks around because he knows the generator started and he knows there's a survivor nearby, or he might even have whispers. But you are good enough at hiding that he gives up. He's like, you're not worth the time, you've hid, well done. As of right now, you're not really rewarded for that. You may get a few boldness points for being near the killer, but that's about it. And what this new mechanic would do would give you a flat, let's say 300 blood points for successfully evading a killer. Now there would be some rules needed for this mechanic, and the two that I can think of are: one, you'd have to be in the killer's radius for a certain amount of time, whether it be about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, something along those lines. And the second rule would have to be that the killer was not either in chase or had initiated a chase with any survivor during those times. This would prevent survivors from being able to just farm these blood point evasion points over and over again by following a killer who may already be in chase on another survivor. So there we have it. Some quick and hopefully effective ways of just bringing survivors closer to in line with killers in terms of their blood point gain. I do want to quickly note that I am actually primarily a killer player, and you could probably already tell this by my immersed survivor gameplay on screen. But hey, why can't both sides get along? At least for the sake of blood points. Now I do believe if Behaviour made all these changes at once, it would probably be a case of survivors hitting 25-30,000 blood points every game, so take all these numbers in moderation. But I want to know what you all think. Do you agree with these changes? Do you even think that survivors need a change of blood points in the first place? Let me know what you think below, and I'll do my best to reply to you as soon as I can. If you are interested in seeing any more content from myself, I do stream 5 days a week on Twitch. I'll leave the link for everything in the description down below. Follow over there or subscribe over here, either or would mean a lot to me. And I'm going to do my best to release a new video on YouTube every week alongside my streams. And that's it for now. Cheers!